My name is Richard Anderson, and I'm a patient stakeholder in the BRIGHT study. With so many knowledgeable team members on a PCORI study, stakeholders might feel unsure about their ability to give meaningful feedback. Maybe they wonder whether their opinions are useful to the study or if they are valued. If I don't feel like my perspective is understood and respected, it can be hard to share. This is especially true in group settings. If stakeholders feel too intimidated to speak up, studies can lose a lot of valuable insight.
I'm Deb Fandel, a family stakeholder in the BRIGHT study. Like Richard said, it can be difficult to know how you add value to a group. Especially in an online meeting, it can be hard to jump into the group discussion. It can be difficult to know if someone is finished speaking or might be about to speak. We might speak up less because we can't find a good opening. Without the body language and facial cues you might get when talking with someone in person, it's difficult to know if folks understand the message you are trying to get across.
I'm Maureen Correa. I'm a BRIGHT professional stakeholder. Difficulties with technology can also affect your ability to engage. If you're too slow to unmute yourself, you might miss an opportunity to speak to a topic. If someone forgot to mute themselves and there's a lot of background noise, you may not be able to hear what someone is saying. It's also just easier to be passive on video calls because it can be intimidating to know when you should talk. And if you have a slower processing speed time, the conversation might just move too fast and you don't get a chance to add your input.
The team provided a comfortable space where our opinions were appreciated and respected. It didn't matter whether you were an investigator, stakeholder, or study staff member. Everyone was treated equally and their specific expertise was acknowledged. The BRIGHT team consistently validated us by saying things like, "That's a great idea," or "That's interesting, I hadn't thought of it from that point of view." Feeling understood reinforced the idea that our thoughts were not only welcome, but actually helpful to the study.
The BRIGHT team was also really intentional with making sure everyone felt included. For example, sometimes stakeholders needed a long pause in order to get their thoughts together. Like Maureen mentioned earlier, video calls also require time to unmute yourself. Everyone was always very patient and let people take as much time as they needed to get their thoughts out there.
Something that was particularly helpful was everyone modeled an openness to human moments and were always met with understanding. Moments of vulnerability set the stage for empathy and mutual respect. This made the study team feel more connected. BRIGHT was structured in a manner that everyone was learning from each other. The idea that not only do I have something to share or teach, I also have something to learn was true for each member of the BRIGHT study across all levels.
The BRIGHT investigators and staff always thanked stakeholders for sharing and showed active listening by first reflecting our statements back to make sure they understood correctly. Then they shared specific ways that our input could be used in the study. Finally, they reported back how the input was actually used and influenced the direction of the study. This might look something like, "Maureen, you brought up such an interesting point about the wording used in the manual. Thanks for giving us some more inclusive language. This will be helpful for the TCMs to use. We shared that wording you provided and incorporated that into our manual." Something like that helped the stakeholders know that the study team was really listening to our feedback, and that made us want to share even more.
Study investigators and staff noticed stakeholders who were a little quieter in meetings and offered them an opportunity to add thoughts or ideas, and also made it clear that it was perfectly fine if they didn't want to add anything. The staff made sure we could communicate our thoughts and ideas via email or phone after the meetings.
The study staff identified the expertise of each stakeholder and how it was useful to the study. For example, the willingness of stakeholders who are brain injury survivors to share their experience was so important in shaping the study. For professional stakeholders, there were opportunities to present their work so they could share resources and network across many professions that are connected to the TBI community.
Study staff also simply respectful of stakeholders' time. They ended meetings when the agenda was finished and always ended meetings on time regardless. By being very intentional with communicating the importance of our presence and perspectives, study staff made us feel valued and that they were not wasting our time. The study was able to really benefit from our engagement by highlighting our unique contributions.